Hey y'all. If you are new today, welcome. My name is Erica, and today we are going to can some chicken broth. I do this every once in a while. I will go to the store and buy some whole chickens. This is not the only reason I buy whole chicken, but I do buy whole chicken specifically for this project. I will go to the store and I will buy whole chickens and I will put them in the roaster, cover them with water, and usually what I do is I go to work on like a Friday morning or something, and I will put all the chickens in the roaster and cover them with water and cook them on low, like 250, 300, all day long while I'm gone. And then whenever I come home, I will turn off the roaster, let them cool down, and then before bed, I'll throw them into the refrigerator. Now, you do not have to put them in the refrigerator. I just personally like doing that because, as you saw, whenever I pulled it out, there was a layer of fat on the top, and I just scraped that off and threw it into another container. I will save this chicken and use it later to cook with, or save this chicken, save the fat and use it later to cook with. We'll put it in like soups and stuff, or if I'm pan frying some chicken, I might throw it in there. Anyways, I like to be able to scrape off the fat, and it solidifies nicely if I throw it in the refrigerator. So usually, like I do this on a Friday. I cook the chicken, I put it in the refrigerator that night. The next morning, it's a Saturday, so I will take it out in the morning, scrape all the fat off, and then I just start pulling the meat off the bones. I get a bucket and save all of the skin, all of the bones, all the cartilage, all that good stuff, and I put it in this other bowl. And then I have some containers I'm putting the chicken in. Sometimes I use that to make, like recipes with. Sometimes I just put it in the freezer, and then usually if I'm going to put it in a freezer, I put it in smaller containers, but I'll put it in the freezer and, use it to like pull out for a meal. So I might put it in containers probably about half the size, and then I might pull out a package to make chicken nachos, or I might pull out a package to make chicken chili or chicken tacos or whatever you want to eat chicken wise, chicken fried rice. I will just pull out a small package and heat it up for that. On this particular day, I am preparing to make freezer pizzas. This is something I do every once in a while to keep, something super easy in the refrigerator. Sometimes it's nice to come home after a busy day of work, or whenever you have a t-ball game or whatever, just to throw something in the microwave, in the oven. I mean, you could put it in our microwave. Our microwave is an oven. I've never actually tried to bake a pizza in our oven. I've just used the air fry function to reheat pizza, which, by the way, is very nice. It's way better than microwaving your pizza. Let me say that. So anyways, this particular day I'm saving the chicken to make pizzas with, but I'm just pulling all of the meat off the bones, putting the bones to the side, putting the meat in the container, and then once we've finished that, I will take the bones and put them back in the roaster. Okay, correction. I will dump out this juice. This is chicken broth. I will just dump it out into not in the trash or anything or down the drain. I've got a big bowl. I will strain and dump it into a large bowl and put that bowl back into the refrigerator. And then I will put all of the chicken bones and stuff back into the roaster, cover it with water. Frequently I will have, like veggie scraps that are sitting in the refrigerator, not the refrigerator, the freezer. I have 4 silicone Ziploc bags that I keep in my freezer that I just fill up on a regular basis, with like carrot tops or onions, like onion skins or garlic skins, or the little pieces of dried up garlic. Sometimes, whenever you buy a fresh clove and you don't get it used up in time, or celery roots, I don't know what you would call it, the bottom part of a celery, or what else? I specifically do not put any peppers in it. I just don't. I don't love the flavor of peppers. I don't like the flavor it gives it. So I generally don't put peppers in there, but like sweet potato ends or whatever, most other stuff I'll go ahead and throw in there. So, I on this day I actually did not have any. I had recently made some chicken broth and I used it. No, it wasn't chicken broth. It was turkey broth. And I used it in that. But today, I am just gonna put the chicken scraps back in there. It just has a little less flavor. I mean, like it's literally just chicken broth. At that point, it's not like chicken and veggie broth, but it works just fine. I generally do not salt my broth. I have. I don't always though, because sometimes it's nice whenever you're making a recipe to control the salt by what you're cooking. So that it's nice to be able to do that. Um, Anyways, and then I'm just gonna cover that back. I'm gonna cover all the bones with water, and then I will put them back in the roaster, and I'm gonna cook them overnight. So this is being recorded like morning, mid morning. Actually, like partway through this, we get a phone call um, about a calf, and we drop everything. Like I do have the chicken back up and rolling in the roaster, um, but we drop everything and run to see about a calf. So, at least I got that, done. So here I am just straining the chicken. Also, I want to say, you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to put this into a refrigerator. You can just wait until it cools down. However, I do think it is easier to manage, like, let's say I'm dumping this broth into these bowls. I don't have to worry about burning myself with the hot broth. I don't have to worry about burning my hands with the hot chicken. It's just a little easier to manage. So, it's not a mandatory. You could literally take the broth directly out of that pot and put it directly into canning jars. Like I said, I like to reboil the bones to try to pull out all of the nutritional value out of the chicken. Um, I am not I'm not a scientist. However, I do know that collagen is really good for you, and collagen is whenever you cook the bones down low and slow, you are pulling the collagen out of the bones. So I mean, also there's a ton of flavor left in there after you've strained off or after you have pulled off all the meat. So, um, yeah. I made like a dozen quarts of that. We'll eat through it, but the recipe, I didn't use the recipe, I just made it up. Like the rest of my life. But I mean, so I made up the recipe that I put into these jars, but then I canned it. Like in the canning book that I use, there is a recipe, not a recipe. There are instructions for canning like beef stew or hamburger stew or something like that. Um, the pressure cooking time is the same on both, just so you know. Uh, so I just used that for the pressure cooking, um, time requirement. I think it's like 90 minutes or something. Anyways, back to the broth. I do not remember how long the broth is off the top of my head. I want to say it's like 20 minutes for a quart, and no, 20 minutes for a pint and 25 minutes for a quart. I don't quote me on that. That I use the Ball Complete Guide to Home Preservation and or something like that. I will link it down in the description. It has recipes. So if you are one of those people that needs a recipe for something, it's down there. If you are like me and you just need one, I like to use it for ideas of what I can, but I also like to use it for, I mean, like chicken broth. I don't need to know how to make chicken broth because I already know how to do that. For the longest time, I would just literally do this, and then I would put it into either containers, like freezer safe containers or Ziploc bags, and then I would just throw it in my freezer. And then, whenever I made a batch of, turkey and noodles or chicken and noodles or some kind of soup, or I needed to make gravy, I would just pull out a package and use it to cook. Well, that was back in the day whenever we had 2 deep freezes and an extra refrigerator. And whenever we moved here, did it die? Maybe? I can't remember. There was a point in time whenever one of our deep freezes died. Um, I can't remember if that was about the time we moved or if we just got rid of it because we didn't. I think that's the case. We were moving into this house. We didn't have a shed. We didn't have literally anywhere to store anything. We had to get 2 storage units to put all of our crap because, um, yeah, we moved from a house with a cellar and a sun porch and a 2-car garage that, my husband kept his various tools and stuff. He's self-employed. And anyways, we didn't have anywhere to keep a second deep freeze. For the longest time, our chest freezer that we have now, sat in our living room. And so we didn't have space to keep 2 deep freezers in our house. So we sold the old one literally before. So we had 2 deep freezers, like you care, but I'm going to tell you anyways. We got 1 deep freezer for free. We didn't even have to pay for it. The first deep freezer that we got, we paid $50. We lived in our apartment, our underground apartment. If you haven't heard me talk about it, we used to live in this literally underground apartment. It was awful. But we got our first deep freezer whenever we moved into that apartment, and we literally paid $50 for it. Like, it was so cheap. And it was, and not that it was a bad deep freezer because it was fine. But we used that deep freezer for many years. And then, whenever we moved into our house, shortly after we moved into our first house, we got one for free from, I think Cameron was literally at a customer's house and they were like, "Hey, do you want this deep freezer?" And he was like, yeah. And so the next day he went and got it. And I'm pretty sure he also got a motorcycle at the same time. And then he didn't do anything with it. So that was real cool. Anyways, yeah, the we had 2 old deep freezers, and then one of those went out at one point in time. Like, I went out to go get something out of the freezer and everything was just soft, and I was like, oh no, this is not good. It was still cold and still mostly frozen, so I shoved as much. It was actually the larger of the 2 deep freezers. We used to have a meat freezer and a veggie freezer, and so I took everything that I could and threw it into our smaller deep freezer. Like, that thing was packed. It was very full. and I shoved as much into our like house refrigerator freezer, and we had to throw away quite a bit of stuff because we didn't have anywhere to put it. It was already soft. And then later that week, my husband went to, I don't even know, some place, bought a a brand new commercial grade deep freezer. So that is, yeah. Did you need to know the entire story of my deep freezing? Also, so anyways, after we get all the broth done, I put all of the broth that I've strained off of the chicken, I put that back into the refrigerator. Once I have all the broth cooked up, I go ahead and I, strain out the chicken and whatnot. And then I put the broth back into the roaster, and then I mix together all of the broths so the broth flavor is consistent amongst the batch. And then I put it into the canning jars, and after I'm done filling up all the canning jars, I clean the rims off with some distilled white vinegar, and then I put on the rings and lids, and I just pressure can it. I have a 23 quart Presto canner. My mom bought it for me for Christmas. I think it was Christmas back in 2000, long time ago. I think it was 2015 or 2016. After we moved into my house, my mom was like, "Hey, you guys are probably going to have a garden. Do you want a pressure canner for Christmas?" I was like, "Heck yes, I do." So she bought me a pressure canner. Those things are not cheap. Thank goodness she bought me one. We probably should get another one because sometimes whenever you are canning a large batch of something like this, chicken broth, it only fits, I think it's like 7 quarts in it. Yeah, you can't, it takes so many times because you have to like put in the quarts and fill it up with water and then let it come to pressure. And it's like, even just like a 20-minute pressure period still takes over an hour to do. So like you put the cans in, you let it boil, it comes up to pressure, you put on the weight, it comes up, well, you let it get pressure, and then you put on the weight, it comes up to pressure, you cook it for the 20-25 minutes or however long. On soups it's like 90 minutes, so that's already an hour and a half, and then you have to let it come back down at a normal, like it's a natural release, and then you let it sit for 2 more minutes, and then you take off the weight and let it sit for 10 more minutes or something. I don't know. It tells you all the rules in the book. Like I said, I will link that down below. I will also link my roaster down below. There'll be a few other links down there. I'll try to link useful things that you might be interested in down below in the description. But yeah, anyways, it would be nice whenever I'm making a large batch of something, soup, broth, chicken, other vegetables. There was one time that Cameron and I canned, oh gosh, it was so much stuff. I canned beets, carrots, potatoes, and green beans all in one day. And like throughout the night, I did not actually get to sleep. I just set like 30-minute timers, or like if it had to pressure can for 20 minutes, I would set a timer for 20 minutes, and then I would just go lay in the recliner for 20 minutes and make sure that I got up and checked on the canned goods. So anyways, that is all I have for you guys today. If you have not already, Please subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Leave me a comment down below and let me know if you have any suggestions. I hope you have an awesome rest of your week, and I'll catch you next time. Bye, y'all.